Welcome to the big show, everyone. We got some intel to report on this Kilmar Abrego Garcia. And I'm going to tell you, Senator Van Hollen probably should have discovered before he decided to go march off down to El Salvador. We'll get into that, plus AOC and Bernie. A little bit of an embarrassing bit of footage just out with the two of them. I have it. I will show you, everyone. And, well, we got The View stepping in it again. The View really just proving how, dare I say, unintelligent the ladies there that sit on that couch at ABC News produced. Entertainment value, I don't know what the show is. I can't believe it's still on television. Can you? The market's way up. I love that. Hey, you know I love that. We love that over at 76 Research. We said this would happen. And you know what? There's more good things to come because you got smart people in the White House. And Rob and I, my co-founder at 76 Research, I think we get a good knack for being able to see through the, BS that comes along the way. 76research.com. Go check out our portfolios there. We have been beating the market. We're so proud of it. You can look at all of those portfolios at 76portfolios.com. Welcome to the show. Good to have you here. Make sure you subscribe, share, like. Careful what you write. I see it all. We're live. Okay, you guys are pretty well behaved though. I don't have to worry. Right, okay. Welcome. Big news here today on this Kilmar Garcia Abrego. So he was the guy that, they deported to the El Salvadorian prison who everybody flipped out about because you can't do that, you can't do that, you can't do that. I mean, despite the fact that he's here illegally, despite the fact that a judge had actually prevented him from getting bail because they believed him to have ties to MS-13, despite the fact that the wife had actually filed for protection with law enforcement because she was so fearful of him being violent. So despite all that, and the fact, of course, I buried the lead, he's here illegally. Despite all that, you get the left absolutely flipping out, freaking out, wanting to make sure, of course, that they do everything they possibly can to get him back here to his happy little family there in Maryland. Except that he may not be exactly the kind of guy that they think he is. They say it doesn't matter, but you know what? It kind of does. Here's the new intel that we're just getting from DHS at this moment. He was convicted of being, or stopped at a traffic light, I should say, in Tennessee. And he was there driving a convicted smuggler's vehicle. So they got him at a Tennessee traffic stop, and he was there in the car, which was filled with 8 other people. It's presumed they were all undocumented, coming here into the U.S. This is really kind of a big deal. So one of the allegations against him is that he has been smuggling people into this country. And the left is like, no. And he's not MS-13. He's not this. He's not that. And yet this now piece of information comes out. So here's a picture of him having been stopped there. This is not good, right? So he was there driving apparently with an expired license. Again, I kind of question how you can get a license as somebody who is here illegally, but in many states you can, and they let him go. Yeah, they let him go. So here's the story being reported there in the New York Post. Officers let him go with a citation for driving with an expired license. He was driving a black 2001 Chevy Suburban to Temple Hills, Maryland, to, quote, bring in people to perform construction work. This is according to the memo. Homeland Security officials found that the vehicle was owned by somebody by the name of Hernandez Reyes, who they suspected had used the SUV for human trafficking or smuggling in separate cases. Vehicle is used by HSI Baltimore Target in human smuggling trafficking operation. Vehicle makes trips to southern border to pick up non-citizens. According to the record, it was gotten by Just the News. I'm like, wow. All right. Wow. So how much proof do you guys need here? I mean, he's driving a convicted human smuggler's car. He's stopped by the cops. This is back in a Tennessee highway in 2022. He was en route to Maryland. He was there with 8 people, none of whom had any documentation on them in the car, apparently, none of whom even had luggage. And so this is of concern. He allegedly was doing this to bring people to a construction site on behalf of his boss, who turned out to be convicted of smuggling himself. They were covering this on Fox. I think it's important to see this and hear the reaction of some Democrats, because the Democrats have been like, oh, no, like this guy is the greatest thing since sliced bread. He's so nice. Look, we have a problem, okay? Whether you like it or not, like there are rules, there are laws. We have a problem because we had under Biden as many as 250,000 people coming into this country, okay, every month. Take a look at that number. It was just surging under Obama had his challenges and he sent many of them home. But Biden was like, okay, come one, come all. And apparently they did. So let me go to this little bit of sound because it's important for you to hear how the Democrats are treating all this.
Kilmar Abrego Garcia. You remember him. He's in the news more than Trump these days. A new report suggests something strange was going on when he was pulled over on a Tennessee highway in 2022. The officer at the time suspected it was a human trafficking incident, and it looks like that, doesn't it? Now we're told through a DHS source that the car Abrego Garcia was driving belonged to a convicted human smuggler. This guy's really a delight. 8 other people were with him. They all used the same home address as Abrego Garcia, and no one has luggage for the drive. How do you figure that? Texas to Maryland, no luggage? Spanning multiple days, multiple states. Something is not adding up here. You put it together. No wonder Democrats are fighting so hard to get him back.
We have to have the courage to be down there and to be in places, even if we don't have the security that we need. We have to continue.
We have to do everything we can right now. We went over there to try our best to see him, to make sure he's okay.
I hope other members of Congress come here and see this for themselves.
I mean, what kind of alternative universe are we in? Because you kind of had me at here illegally. I mean, then there's the wife thing and the violence there that she felt strongly enough that she needed to go and get police protection for. Then there's you got the tattoos, which are symbolic according to law enforcement of MS-13. And then there's, just the basic fact, there's this little thing that, he's here illegally. And what I don't really get is that if I go to El Salvador, or if I go to Mexico, or if I go anywhere in the world, and if I go there illegally, I don't go through passport control, I don't have the proper visa, guess what? They're going to send me home. And gosh darn, if I do something bad, that's a whole other thing. But why not just send me home, right? Why actually put the American taxpayer through the process of having to do all this? Why not just send them back to happy little El Salvador? Oh, he can't go there because this is rich. Apparently, another gang wants to chase him down. Think about that and the implications of that. They got into this the other night on CNN, and it's kind of comical. One of these women who used to work on Fox, and she's super, super liberal, but she just doesn't put like 1 + 1 together and get 2. It comes out to like 8 or something, and poor Scott Jennings is trying to deal with her watch.
There's due process that exists in this country for everybody, and the fact that this man had received no due process, he was effectively disappeared to a foreign country, a country which he came from, which he was basically he got
it's
asylum.
It's not a foreign country. He lives there.
Excuse me, no, he does not live there.
He's a citizen of El Salvador.
Scott, excuse me, he got asylum in this country.
He's a citizen.
Scott,
does he have asylum?
Excuse me, let me finish.
No, he doesn't.
No, it's not that he. Sorry, it's not that he got asylum. He got a judge to say that he could not be.
Does he have a deportation order?
Excuse me, he could not be. Can you let me finish? He could not be. He could not be rendered back to El Salvador because he was at risk of being harmed in El Salvador. That is what a federal judge. That is what a federal judge.
By who? No, who was he at risk of?
Excuse me. That was what a federal judge said.
He could not be deported.
Who could he be at risk by? I don't know.
But a rival gang.
No. Excuse me, Scott. Excuse me. Stop. Do you really believe that this guy's an MS-13 member? Because
I've got two heads of state telling me that they believe it.
Oh, okay. Your heads of state. Okay. Barack Obama said that.
I mean, again. Like, it's common sense. And not that she has any. I mean, they used to put her on The View. She's Jessica Tarlov, I think, took her job. But they used to put her on The View because why? Well, she had no common sense. And that kind of worked because the left is kind of easy to poke holes through. But what's amazing to me is, right, they're controlling the majority of the media. They're controlling the majority of the narrative. And they're sitting there saying, you can't deport him, you can't deport him, you can't deport him. And I'm like, wait, so now he becomes a stress on our system? We have to go through all the legal ramifications? We can't just actually send him home to his country? I mean, maybe you don't need to send him to prison, right? You can just send him home. This was the best sound of last week. And I just have to play it again because Stephen Miller, there's no one better than him on this issue. He has spent a ton of time studying the law on this. He knows it inside and out, and he got into it with the Fox anchor. I think the Fox anchor was like, oh my gosh, I didn't know this was coming. But anyway, he's like, hello, the guy's from El Salvador. We sent him home. What more do you expect?
Number one, DOJ said a federal court cannot compel the executive branch to engage in any mandated act of diplomacy or incursion upon the sovereignty of another nation. So your argument is that you don't have to bring him back home, but will you?
So I want to correct, I hate to do it, Bill, but I got to correct you on every single thing that you said because it was all wrong. First, we won the Supreme Court case, clearly, 9-0. A district court judge said unconscionably that the president and his administration have to go into El Salvador and extradite one of their citizens, an El Salvadorian citizen, so that would be kidnapping, that we have to kidnap an El Salvadorian citizen against the will of his government and fly him back to America, which would be an unimaginable act and an invasion of El Salvador's sovereignty. So we appealed to the Supreme Court, and it said clearly, no district court can compel the president to exercise his Article 2 foreign powers in any way whatsoever. DOJ called me after that Supreme Court ruling, and they said, this is amazing. We won this case 9-0. We are in excellent standing here. So this has been portrayed wrong for 72 hours in the media. They said the most a court could ever compel you to do would be to facilitate return, which would basically mean if El Salvador voluntarily sends him back, we wouldn't block him at the airport. We would put him back into ICE detention, and then he would be deported either back to El Salvador or somewhere else. The Supreme Court said that is the most the government can be expected to do. So we won the case handily. The misreporting on this has been atrocious.
Okay,
Secondly,
I appreciate
he was
the
not, no, Bill, it's important. He was not mistakenly sent to El Salvador.
Okay, so do you still
He's an
believe
illegal
he is a
alien
member of
from
MS?
El Salvador. Hold on, this is important. In 2019, he was ordered deported. He has a final removal order from the United States. These are things that no one disputes. Where is he from? El Salvador. Where is he a resident and citizen of? El Salvador. Is he here illegally? Yes. Does he have a deportation order? Yes. A DOJ lawyer who has since been relieved of duty, a saboteur, a Democrat, put into a filing incorrectly that this was a mistaken removal. It was not. This was the right person sent to the right place. Now, some have said, well, but he had a thing called a withholding order. So a withholding order means you've been ordered deported, but an immigration judge is saying you cannot go back to a particular country. Here's the thing. If you are a member of a foreign terrorist organization, you cannot have a withholding order. Since he's in MS-13, there is no withholding order. Furthermore, the gang that he is accused of being persecuted by doesn't exist anymore in El Salvador. The 18th Street gang is gone. So you have an illegal alien from El Salvador. Bill, where are we supposed to send the illegal alien from El Salvador?
You haven't even
to what
allowed me
country?
to ask you a question. Are you convinced he is still a member of MS-13? That was your original charge.
Yes. But here's the thing, Bill. Yes, but here, not only am I convinced of it, not only is El Salvador convinced of it, Bill, he's an illegal alien from El Salvador with the deportation order. So his only options in life, Bill, his only options in life are to be deported to El Salvador or to be deported to some other country. That's it. He has a deportation order. So, Bill, you tell me, what country should we deport him to? Tell me, please. Tell me.
So Marco Rubio on Sunday morning said this. On Saturday night, another 10 criminals.
And that's the end of it. Hey, listen, if you've already seen that here on this show with me, thank you for humoring me. But I just think that he does such a good job at breaking that down. In other words, what else are you supposed to do with the guy? He's already been deported. He comes back in. You deport him again. You deport him to El Salvador, right? Why are we going to go through all this rigmarole? Now, look, I can get it. Maybe the idea is, we don't want to deport him to a prison. Just send him back to his country. I think at this point, though, they can't actually just let him go free because somebody's going to pick him up in El Salvador. He's probably going to get hurt or worse, and therefore then it's going to get turned back on the Trump administration. So they're keeping him safe. He's probably, doing just fine in some other kind of prison. He's not in the really bad one. They moved him out of that. In the meantime, we've got this whole thing going on with the Supreme Court, which I got to tell you, is a bit of a showdown at this point. You've got these illegal Venezuelans here in this country that are believed to have an association with a group that the administration is deeming a threat to the country, TDA. And the Supreme Court now blocked an order over the weekend that would have allowed for their deportations using that 18th century wartime law. Basically, the 1798 Aliens Act, which enables the President of the United States and the Secretary of State to say, okay, you know what, these people are threats to our country, and as a result of that, we are going to deport them because they represent a direct assault to us. Now, in the brief order, the court directed the Trump administration not to remove the Venezuelans held there in Texas at the detention center until, quote, further order of this court. It is just temporary. You had Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito dissenting in this one. Basically, it came from the ACLU, right? They had gone in and they were contending that the immigration authorities appeared to be basically moving people out of the country on the Aliens Act, Enemy Act 1798, and they said they can't do that, even though, of course, the Supreme Court said they could. And that's actually what Stephen Miller was just explaining. So what's bizarre to me in this case is you now have the Supreme Court almost re-examining its own decision. I get that it's only temporary, etc., but I think that this is creating a murkiness that is unnecessary. Either you have this Aliens Enemy Act of 1798 or you don't. Which is it, Supreme Court? Miller was kind of ticked off on this one too.
You have, in this case, illegal aliens from Venezuela sent here by Maduro who are members of a foreign terrorist organization, Tren de Aragua, an organization that the intelligence community has found is operating at the direction of a hostile, adversarial foreign regime carrying out criminal enterprises to destabilize the political system in the United States. Those are the facts when it comes to TDA. So they're all illegal, they're all gang members, they're all foreign terrorists. And now we are being told that they cannot be expelled from our country without an extraordinary amount of individualized adjudication at the district court, circuit court, Supreme Court, up and down, up and down, up and down. No American citizen receives this level of so-called due process. Because it isn't due process. This is called infinity process to keep you here forever. Yeah. That's what this is.
Oh no, it's crazy.
No American citizen charged with a crime, with a serious crime inside the United States, a U.S.-born American citizen receives this kind of process. Millions of dollars in free legal services, representation at every single level. I mean, do you think that there is any, for example, any American citizen who was persecuted, who was innocent related to January 6th? Do you think they could just get this kind of relief, this kind of process? No. It was never available to them. Yeah. The whole system was rigged against them, just like it's rigged in favor of illegal alien invaders.
You know, you gotta hear him out on that one, right? Because you think about where we are in this moment in time, what we went through, for example, with J6, and those people not being able to get any, like, it was just bureaucracy on steroids. And now suddenly everything gets expedited right up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court says, oh, okay, we're going to wait on this one. Like, what is going on? Someone is here illegally. Then they are believed or suspected to have committed a crime, and you can't deport them? Like, you lost me, all right? What do you think you have laws and borders for? This is happening in New Hampshire right now, my home state. Take a look at this, everyone. Wow. Chinese non-residents guilty of hacking and stealing millions of dollars worth of gift cards. That's a new one. They got millions of dollars worth of gift cards, and they went in and bought stuff from retailers and electronics, sent all that stuff back home to China. And so they were discovered, they were found out. You have the U.S. Attorney's Office in the district of my little home state of New Hampshire picking these guys up and sentencing them to federal prison for participating in a fraudulent gift card conspiracy involving the purchase and exports of Apple products to China. So these Chinese nationals were here, in some cases, unlawfully. Okay, Maxine Wu, 26 years old, Chinese national, unlawfully residing in Nashua, gets 33 months in prison and 1 year of supervised release. Another one residing in Nashua was sentenced by the judge to 60 months in prison, 1 year of supervised release. Then you get a 28-year-old, a Chinese national, unlawfully residing in Brooklyn, New York, was sentenced by the judge to 24 months in prison and 1 year of supervised release. Earlier this year, the defendants each pled guilty to conspiracy to commit wire fraud. All three defendants faced deportation to China after completing their sentences. Excuse me? So they're here illegally. They commit a crime. They go to jail where they get 3 squares a day and, exercise and, knitting programs and the whole bit, courtesy of the New York, well, in this case, federal taxpayer, New Hampshire, New York, but these are federal prisons that they're going to. So I'm sorry, why aren't they just gone out of the country, no longer our responsibility and no longer allowed back in? There's some kind of messed up breakdown here. Once you come here, you don't have to leave. You're entitled to all these processes before you actually are sent home, and you get to break the law, and then you get to go to prison here in the U.S. I mean, come on. All right, that has to change. It will change. It has to change. You get a lot of people that are working on it right now. Sometimes we think it can't happen fast enough, right? Quick shout out to the markets. We love this. Did you see the stock market today? Did you see? We're getting ready to close here on the Dow. We're looking at 1% of an increase. S&P up nearly 2%. NASDAQ up over 2%. So this is really, really some exciting stuff. I mean, this is third day of major gains. So we love seeing that. You can learn more about the markets at my website, 76research.com. Use code word dollar so you can get the 76 report for just $1 a month for the first 2 months. Hey, we talk about what's happening and what's changing, and Tulsi Gabbard is really coming out strong. I just want to give a shout out to her because she has just come forward with some pretty concerning but fascinating stuff. So she is now referring 2 people, 2 alleged leakers, to the DOJ for prosecution. It's interesting because, Pete Hegseth has been doing this big thing right over at the Pentagon. He's very upset about leakers. He's made that very clear, of course, over and over and over again. But Tulsi's doing something rather different. I mean, there were no interviews. She simply made a statement saying she was referring to individuals, and she has a third that she expects to refer as well, because these people are guilty, in her estimation, of leaking critical, classified information. And in doing so, that is actually illegal, guys. You're going to be behind bars for that. I get that people have their political biases, et cetera, and they're maybe trying to massage things around the edges, and they want to have a certain kind of profile in the New York Times or the Washington Post or a certain viewpoint on a particular bit of information. But at some point, if you're crossing the line and you're actually giving away classified stuff and thereby jeopardizing an operation, well, the government has to intervene and do something. And so this is what we're seeing Tulsi do right now. I want to share with you her social media post where she says politicization of our intelligence and leaking classified information puts our nation's security at risk and must end. Those who leak classified information will be found and held accountable to the fullest extent of the law. Today, I referred 2 intelligence community leaks to the Department of Justice for criminal referral, with the 3rd criminal referral on its way, which includes the recent illegal leak to the Washington Post. These deep state criminals leaked classified information for partisan political purposes to undermine President Trump's agenda. And I look forward to working with the Justice Department and the FBI to investigate, terminate, and prosecute these criminals. I will tell you this, you know what? You can't have a government where half or maybe even 80% of rank and file don't see eye to eye with the president and find it to be their mission to somehow stop him, right? You get all these Obama holdovers. He did a good job of brainwashing everybody. Okay, I want my people in here, and he kind of remade the system in his likeness, shall we say. And then they all kind of lingered, and they all kind of stayed. And then Trump came in, and they didn't like that, right? So 2016, we spent 4 years dealing with Russia, and all this stuff, and impeachment city. And then Biden gets in. And so the whole team's back in action. And they went after, did they not? They went after Donald Trump and his associates with everything they had. What do you think the J6 thing was all about? What do you think, sending Steve Bannon to jail was all about? They went after them with a vengeance. And now I'm looking at what's happening here, and I commend Tulsi for this. I realize Pete's got an investigation going on, but other than, sending some people out of the office and shaming them in the media, we don't have anybody actually being prosecuted yet. And so I commend her for actually taking the right steps and moving this forward and getting it into the hands of Pam. But now it's in the hands of Pam. And I want to know what Pam is going to do. Okay, Pam Bondi, where are you? Where are you? Where are you? I realize you're on TV a lot, and I know you love going on Hannity's show. And you know what? Good for you. It's good to get the information out there. But we also need results. And when I think about what they have put this president through, when I think about Letitia James and her nonsense, when I think about all of these cases that were leveled against the president, I'm really looking around and saying, okay, so what are you going to do about it? And what are you going to do about Letitia James, who made it her political mission, ladies and gentlemen, right? Made it her political mission to go after him and bankrupt him. That was her goal. And if you don't believe me, you know what? Let's go back to some stuff that was on the campaign trail, because I remember this quite well. Too male, too pale, too stale, right? Remember all that. This is who she is, who she was, and who she will continue to be. And so you can't have people like this running wild, because it destroys the integrity of the system. Here is Tish James, just to remind you.
What would you say to people who say, oh, I'm not going to bother to register to vote because my voice doesn't make a difference, or I'm just one person?
I say one name, Donald Trump. That should motivate you. Get off your ass and vote.
Will you sue him for us?
Oh, we're going to definitely sue him. We're going to be a real pain in the ass. He's going to know my name personally.
I love it.
Yeah. So Letitia James is struggling a little bit, right? Up a creek without a paddle. I mean, you consider what's going on right now in terms of the mortgage allegations, new allegations being leveled against one Letitia James, effectively, suggesting that she did some of the things that she kind of went after Trump for, except it's a little bit worse because, his was a private transaction. I think she was getting some government benefit of a better interest rate, et cetera. The mortgage allegations are serious enough that now she's totally freaking out. Of course, it probably didn't help. She was freaking out a little bit when she had the Daily Caller showing up at her house. Did you guys see this?
The Daily Caller News Foundation.
Goodbye, you're trespassing.
I'm sorry.
Trespassing. My kids are around here.
I understand. We mean no trouble. We're just curious who the occupants of the home are,
Don't
because
worry
there's
about whose occupants. That's none of your business.
well there are connections to New York Attorney General Letitia James.
That doesn't matter. You're trespassing.
Are you related to Letitia James?
Do you know her?
You're trespassing. Go in the house.
Do you know
You're
Letitia James?
trespassing.
No? Okay.
You're trespassing.
No comment. Thank you,
Don't
ma'am.
come up to my house no more.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. You have a good one.
It's gonna be fine.
You will.
So she wasn't too happy about that happened. And no sooner did that happen that she decided to go on some little local news show and talk about this, speaking with a reporter. And I'll tell you, she can't defend herself at all. She cannot defend her. He asked her the question about those mortgage allegations. She's got no defense, but, she took the opportunity to go after Trump as much as she could. If you ask me, she's like Soundbite City. She says the same thing over and over and over again. I'm not scared. I'm this, that, and the other. Listen to her, though. I can hear the fear in her voice. And you know what? There should be fear in her voice. I want Pam to get on this one because this is serious.
Good to see you, Ms. James. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Errol.
Absolutely. What is going on here? Did anybody contact you before this letter went out accusing you of this, that, and the other and making a criminal referral about real estate transactions?
No, not at all. And let me just say to all New Yorkers and to all Americans, the allegations are baseless. The allegations are nothing more than a revenge tour. And as you mentioned, my office was successful in securing a $454 million judgment against Donald Trump and others for exaggerating the value of his assets. He engaged in a pattern and practice of fraud. And the interest is accruing each and every day while the case is on appeal in the First Department. It's important that individuals know that this is nothing more than the continuation of the tour. He went after law firms, universities, immigrants, women. Thousands of federal employees right now are unemployed. Our government is in chaos and in disarray. Medicaid, Social Security, CFPB, and the list goes on and on and on. And as you know, as you mentioned, each and every day, my office is leading the fight against these executive orders, which have...
It's like she can't ever stop campaigning, right? She can't ever stop, not for 2 seconds. I'm leading the fight. I'm doing this and that and the other, because this is how she fundraises, guys. This is how she gets money. This is what they're... And Ilhan Omar is no different. I'm going to get to that in a second. But this is Letitia trying to say, listen, I'm going to keep going after Trump, this, that, and the other. You're the problem, Letitia. You see, who the heck wants to go into politics if it's as corrupt as you?
No legal import at all, have no legal significance. And we are standing up for the rights and privileges of New Yorkers and Americans. I will not be silenced. I will not be bullied. I will not bend. I will not break. And I will not bow to anyone. No one is above the law, including the President of these United States.
Okay.
Well, the Office of the Attorney General will continue to stand up.
I feel like I've heard her say that before.
Let me follow up of some of what's in this this letter. It says according to media reports, which for us in the media is kind of a red flag, meaning that
excuse me, according to media reports, for us in the media is a red flag. I guess that's fair. Maybe you're calling out the media. Finally, the media calling out the media. Anyway, here's the part where she just can't answer it, guys. She can't answer the question. I mean, if she was innocent, why wouldn't she say it? But listen to what she says.
Seems to be based on some social media posts that I know were made by partisan political actors. But just let me ask you about some of the specifics in the letter. They're saying that your house in Brooklyn is a legal 5-family and the mortgage on it is for a 4-family house. Is that true?
So let me just say that, Errol, you know, as any good attorney, I will not litigate this case in a camera.
Pardon me, but you see, that's how she got the better mortgage deal. It's apparently a 5-level house or 5-bedroom house, but she said it was four levels, and like that qualified her for a different kind of thing. So it's like, you know, she was after Donald Trump because he inflated the square footage apparently. Of course, it's a private deal between him and Deutsche Bank at the time, and Deutsche Bank was like, we'll take this deal all day long, and guess what? We do it again because we made money. Letitia, on the other hand, is trying to cry poor mouth, and you know she's going to get a better deal if there's like a 4-family thing instead of a 5-family thing, and she won't answer the question. By the way, thank you so much. I'm getting a lot of generosity here today. I love seeing that from the comments. Much appreciated. 200 Watt Studio, and we had another one from Unc Andy. Thank you so much. Here we go.
It's important that we will respond to these allegations at the appropriate time. And in an appropriate way. But I will not go back and forth with respect to these baseless allegations. I am more focused again on standing up for the freedoms, the liberties, and for the rule of law in the state of New York.
I was under the impression by all of this that what they were really looking for is what they got, which is a headline saying, Tish James is under a criminal investigation. Is that pretty much what's going on here?
Yeah, that's what they got. That's what they got. And it's unfortunate that you have some of these right-wing conservative individuals who are camped out in front of my home and in front of the homes of my relatives in Virginia, harassing them each and every day. And it's unfortunate, knocking on the doors of my neighbors and the neighbors of my relatives in the state of Virginia. And it is nothing more than a headline. Nothing more than, again, retaliation against...
Gosh, how does that feel, Letitia? I wonder, because, what do you think you were? Other than a headline? for Donald Trump and an attempt to actually bankrupt him. I still question that because that Second Court of Appeals, they should have actually thrown that case out by now. It doesn't take them this long. You've watched it together with me. We have seen the judges react and they are just disgusted by the entire case. They're like, well, heck, there's no victim here. What are you talking about? This seems like a private transaction between two individuals. Why are you wasting our time with this? And yet they haven't thrown it out yet. Kathy Hokll, the governor of New York, allegedly went in to meet with the president. The president felt as though Kathy Hokll was trying to say, hey, I control the judges in New York. So you know what, if you want that bankruptcy thing, I mean, it's $500 million, guys, and still counting, right? That's a lot of money, even for a billionaire. If you want that to go away before we try and bankrupt you to get all this money, you know what? Well, you better play by my rules and allow for that $9 surcharge to happen in Midtown Manhattan, which he doesn't want. That's how he interpreted it. He told a columnist at the New York Post that. So that's been reported. Kathy Hokll, oh, no, I wouldn't do that. No, I wouldn't be corrupt. Why would I be corrupt? You know, the rest of them are corrupt. So I just get back to Pam. You know what? I love Pam. But she's going to really run a well-oiled machine here. This is like being a CEO of a big company, right? You got to have all your attorneys from New York to California and everywhere in between rooting out bad actors like Letitia James and others like, say, Fannie Willis or Alvin Bragg. You need to go after all of these people as hard as you can because it ruins the system for everyone else. When you have such corruption, it makes it so that nobody else can want to or desire, will never have any desire. I mean, who the heck would want to go into politics? Because they're just going to take you down. So that's got to change. I mean, we're lucky Donald Trump was willing to even get, for goodness sake, shot at. I mean, nearly killed, right, in Butler County, Pennsylvania. So we need action out of Pam. And I'm just going to say that. I hope we're going to get it. We want it. I will tell you this. You know what? If the Democrats become the ones in charge, then, hey, they're going to do what they can to impeach him. I mean, I don't want to start talking about midterms yet, but it's in part why I say Pam's got to get going because we need to actually start to see results. Because if the tables were flipped, there would be results. And Ilhan Omar is already out telling us her roadmap for how she's going to go after Trump. And, they just need to get more power and they need more members of Congress to be Democrats so that they can go after him, they can impeach him and this, that, and the other. And I'm like, oh my gosh. You can see it all playing out. So this is why I'm saying you got to root out the corruption before this happens. I realize this is very hard to hear because this is probably from somebody's cell phone camera or something. So you may have to turn up the volume, but it's well worth hearing because Ilhan Omar is articulating exactly what she wants to do. Here we go.
It is very clear that in the 3 months Trump has been in office, the United States has been in a free fall. You all know that Democrats are in the minority in the House and in the Senate, and that drastically reduces our power. If we were in the majority, here's what we would be doing. We would be holding non-stop oversight hearings about what the Trump administration is doing, carrying out investigations into the corruption and the abuses of power and illegal actions. We would be holding Trump appointees in contempt of Congress when they lie under oath and violate the Constitution. And trust me when I say this, we would be suing Trump for stealing congressional authority, especially spending power.
Okay. So we know what she wants to do. I mean, that's a pretty big threat against the President of the United States. She's going to impeach him. She's going to sue him for this, that, and the other. So I'm just saying, okay, time is of the essence. I'm getting a little frustrated. I realize it's a lot. It's overwhelming. I mean, we haven't even gotten to Epstein yet, right? I mean, there's a lot that Pam has to do. But we need it to happen fast. So if you got to put a system in place where you got your lieutenants and they're running out there and doing their jobs, let's do it, okay? Because we don't have time to waste. I don't think that they're going to win in 2 years, but I don't even want to take that chance. Does that make sense? Yeah, I don't think they're going to win because I actually think the economy is going to do just fine. Just look at the stock market today. Stock market is a great predictor of what's going to happen 3 to 6 months out. I think we're going to be fine. We've got inflation coming down. We're getting better trade deals. There's a lot to be very, very hopeful about. And I think people are sick and tired of finding out that, you know what? All this money, taxpayer money, is going to this, that, and the other. Doge did a great job of exposing so much of this. You think about Harvard University, for goodness sakes. Harvard University taking in $9 billion of taxpayer money. Why on earth, if you're living out in Timbuktu, should you have to pay for anything at Harvard when they get this massive, $56 billion endowment fund? I mean, they got plenty of money. Let them just keep investing. Why are we taxpayers on the hook for this? I'm sorry, when they can't even guarantee that they're not going to discriminate against anyone, including Jewish students. I mean, the anti-Semitism is rife on campus, and I'm sorry, but they've lost the story on this. Harvard, that has more money than anyone else, $56 billion, is asking mom and pop in Kansas for their contribution. No, I think those days are over, despite what's got.
How much pain can Harvard absorb here?
We don't know how much we can actually absorb, but what we do know is that we cannot compromise on basic principles like defense of our First Amendment rights.
Okay. Defense of our First Amendment rights. I'll tell you, Harvard, this really isn't about your First Amendment rights, and it's about our rights as taxpayers. Harvard wants your money, all they can get of it. And Donald Trump is simply saying, you know what, we're going to take a step back because we have to right about now. This is not going well for the country, for anyone. And I just get back to, why are we paying for a school that has so much money? Thank you so much, Mr. Know-It-All. I remember speaking with Ivanka back when she was in the administration, and she was actually one of the first people to bring this up. I had gone down to just kind of have an off record. It was on record to a certain extent. I'm not speaking out of school telling you any of this, but I had gone down to see her there at the White House. She actually had an office right across the hall from my former co-host at CNBC, who's now over at Fox Business One, Larry Kudlow. And Larry is part of the economic team there, and he's a great guy. And Ivanka is a wonderful woman and a very earnest woman in that she really wanted to try and make some powerful contributions, especially to middle-class workers in, for example, industries that are challenged and maybe are seeing job losses. She mentioned the coal industry, for example, and she said she found me this study, and she's like, do you know the coal miners have this gift for coding? Why don't we have a program to make sure that all of these people that are doing these jobs have the assets and skill set to go and do these other jobs, right? So she was really in touch with sort of vocational training and wanted to do the most in terms of coding, et cetera, because the idea is, right, as we transition increasingly to this other kind of economy, as much as you want to protect people, you also want to make sure that they have the skills to move forward. And one of the things that she brought up was that all these colleges are getting federal money. And she's like, all these universities, they're getting a ton of federal tax dollars. Given that we're giving them this federal money, shouldn't we have more say in, knowing what they're teaching kids and making sure that those kids can be employed on the other side? Why not have some kind of system? She even talked about building an app where you could go in and figure out, gee, if I go to this school and I spend this much money, this is probably the salary that I will have upon graduation. This is probably what I'm going to earn in 10 years or 20 years. She wanted to see some hard metrics because she felt like taxpayers were just forking over all this money to schools that were not teaching kids how to be part of the real world. So this is just a little anecdote, I tell you. When Harvard's there sitting there, I want your $9 billion. What, so we can intimidate kids on campus? I mean, you saw the videos. I saw the videos. That's not right. Well, Harvard, go, you know what, F yourself, because we don't need to give you money. And now Donald Trump is even threatening your accreditation, let's be very clear. So I think there's more pain to come for those universities. for sure. But, they're so full of TDS, they can't think straight. They're like the ladies on The View, for goodness sakes. I mean, that's what academic institutions have become. And you look at the women on The View who really don't have a lot going on upstairs, and you equate that now with college campuses. I think that they got something in common, shall we say. Sunny Houston and Joy Behar outdid themselves this week on that little show, which is run by one ABC News, which is owned by none other than Disney. Pretty soon they're going to come to their senses and get rid of this thing. But anyway, Sunny decided to get into this new policy that's being talked about because we have a low birth rate. And the Trump administration had floated around the idea of, hey, what about $5K per kid? You have a baby, boom, $5K. We're going to pay you to have kids. I don't know if that's going to get anywhere. And, I'm not necessarily crazy about the policy. We can talk about it another time. But what I didn't think is what Sunny thought. So Sunny somehow immediately went to the worst place of assuming that this was like you have to have a white baby in order to get the 5K, which is not at all what this is. I mean, you're going to be an American. But listen to this. Sunny Houston on the baby bonus and where her head goes and where her colleague Joy Behar goes.
Because when I look at something like this, these proposals, I want to know why, and I want to know who's making them. And so when I looked into that, they're saying that the U.S. birth rate is declining. However, in 2024, there was a 1% increase in U.S. births. But that increase was with Hispanic mothers and Asian mothers. So they don't seem to be concerned about that increase. They seem to be more concerned about a decrease in other populations.
Say it.
No, I think I said enough.
It's not based on that.
And so, well, it's just based on a study. And so the other thing
but
I will.
Have they said that anywhere? I mean, I feel like
yeah,
it should be fair.
It's just as fair to who? It's just a.
Have they said that this is to target only white families?
Oh, I didn't say that.
You have to read between the lines.
I just gave the stats.
Yeah, but it's about economics. They're wanting people to pay in.
I'm just giving.
Okay, like really? Is that where your head went? You find out they're going to give out $5K for baby bonuses and like somehow you're worried that it's not going to go to Hispanics or Asians or blacks? Come on. I mean, this is, again, they just create craziness. This TDS on steroids. And you got Joy Behar backing it up. I mean, Whoopi's just looking at the camera. She's been completely, I was going to say emasculated, but I believe she still identifies as a female. Nonetheless, she's emasculated. I'll look for another word later. She doesn't have quite her mojo anymore because it is my belief that she's been told she has to calm down because she's been so blatantly irresponsible on that show. And Bob Iger, the CEO of Disney, is looking at it and saying, I don't know how much longer we can do this, especially with Brendan Carr from the FCC breathing down our back. Right? The FCC is like, we don't know if we're actually going to continue allowing ABC to have all of its affiliates around the country because you're not giving the affiliates quality programming. Look at how much they distrust these news outlets. Heck, I mean, you even had to pay up $16 million for Georgie Poo over on This Week with George Stephanopoulos because he literally just kept repeating something that was not true over and over again, and Donald Trump was able to sue him for libel. I mean, gosh, guys, wake up. I mean, I do think my own personal view on this is that Whoopi Goldberg has made a decision that she wants to keep her job. Joy Behar may not care. She's kind of at the end of her rope there. I don't know how old she is, but she's approaching 80 and she just sold her place and did not sell. I don't know if she sold it. She put her place on the market in Sag Harbor for some $10+ million, little 4,000 square foot salt box that it is in the center of town. Ooh, prices are steep, huh? Who said the economy was doing bad? Anyway, look, all of them have TDS. But what's frightening about this is I go back to what's happening in the courts and the hysteria and, oh my gosh, you can't deport somebody who's here illegally, even if they've committed a crime. And this sort of hysteria about, Donald Trump is bad and we can't wait till we get in 2 years' time because we're going to take him down. I just keep saying you've got to beat them to the punch. You've got to make sure that you root out the craziness. Let's get back to like a civil world where we're actually all on the same page trying to do the right thing for America. there's a couple of politicians that really have made it their mission to take down one Donald Trump and to take down, frankly, capitalism. Two socialists, you know them well, AOC and Bernie Sanders, hitting the road to go take their socialism on steroids tour all over the place. They were so proud because they had thousands of people there in Colorado recently. It turned out, however, the data showed that apparently all of those people were like paid rally goers. Because what they discovered in some of the GPS data was that all of those people had been to like 8 or 9 Kamala events. Like this is what they do, right? They just kind of go around and go to these events and they get paid to go to these events. So they also inflated the crowd size, if you recall. Yeah, they said there were like 30,000 people there or 35,000 people there. It turned out there were like 20,000 people there. Don't get me wrong, 20,000, that's a lot. It's a lot to hire, right, and bring in. But hey, you know, you get deep pockets. I guess it can happen. AOC and Bernie Sanders, who believe that you should not have a right to keep the money that you may earn, who believe that business is the problem, who believe that you need to turn it all over to them so that they can reallocate the capital in the way that only they know best. I mean, forget the fact that the United States of America is the #1 largest economy, making lots of money, $30 trillion GDP, largest in the world for one reason, and that's because we embody capitalism. And these two people want to destroy it. You know what happens in that kind of environment? Oh, it goes right into their pockets. Take a look at AOC and Bernie Sanders, humble little communist socialists that they are, exiting from a giant multi-million-dollar private jet so that they can go give their pitch on how you need to pay more taxes. Take a look. Yep, that is video of AOC and Bernie Sanders getting out of that lovely, lovely jet because they don't fly commercial. No, they don't do anything the hard way. They do it all with donors' backings. I mean, Bernie Sanders himself is a multimillionaire many times over, right? He says, oh, I got that way because of my books. I had great book sales. Well, why didn't you just donate it back to the cause, buddy? And why are you taking private jets? So you can see him, his white hair, he just walked off the jet, then AOC's there. And this is kind of, if you ask me, a bit embarrassing for these two, because if you're all about this redistribution of wealth, and if you're all about climate change and, you know, not polluting the environment, then what the heck are you doing on a private jet, which we know is bad for the environment? It reminds me of that time that John Kerry, our climate czar, was interviewed. He had to fly somewhere to accept a climate award. He gets off the plane and some reporter said to him, you really think it's appropriate to be flying a Gulfstream jet here for your climate award? And he's like, well, yeah, I have to get places. Like, we don't have to get places. The rest of the world doesn't have to get places. He doesn't want you flying more than 3 times a year or something crazy like that. And you're not allowed to take any kind of private jet, but he can, right? Because he knows, but that is what happens, you understand, in a communist society. It's been tried many times before, all over the world, and you know what? It never works. It never works for a reason, because of greed. It is a human condition. Let's just own up to it, right? Accept the fact that we as human beings, we have our faults. We have our strengths, we have our weaknesses, and guess what? We're a greedy bunch. So I don't know what other system, it may not be perfect, embraces that greed in a positive way for the benefit of everyone other than a capitalist system. That's the truth of it. AOC and Bernie Sanders, I mean, really and truly, they are capitalists at heart, mind you, right? That is what they effectively are, and we know that because of the millions of dollars that Bernie has somehow amassed, his multiple homes, and the willingness, of course, to go out there and fly on a private jet. I'm surprised he flew with her. You know why I'm surprised? Because he's been a little bit ornery, shall we say. I mean, he's out there, oligarchy, and yet when I say ornery, he doesn't always like it when people talk to him about AOC. In other words, he's supposed to be the only socialist out there. How can they possibly have this young up-and-comer who's prettier than him? Here he is talking about his Well, I think he reveals, shall we say, his distaste for AOC. Remember when he walked off the set at ABC News? Jonathan Karl was trying to do an interview with him.
Would you like to see her joining the Senate?
Right now, we have, as I said, just a whole lot of people in the Congress. Okay, Jonathan, thanks.
Wait, I got one more. This is important.
Well, I asked you.
Okay.
You want to do nonsense, do nonsense.
No.
I don't want to talk about inside the Beltway stuff. I got 32,000 people.
I was just asking you about AOC because she was out there with you.
No, fine, but I don't want to talk about this. What was the last question?
I was just going to ask you one more question about you. I mean, that's all. I was literally your last.
What is your question?
Well, I mean, it's easier if you're sitting.
Oh, Bernie, so how did you get on that jet with her? I wonder. I mean, she's not your type, right? She's not your type. How did you do that? That couldn't have been easy for you, having to fly all that way with one AOC. Well, he was asked about whether or not she's going to run for the Senate. Here's my intel. She's not thinking Senate, guys. This woman wants to run for the presidency of the United States of America. We already had a socialist, quasi-socialist, maybe even a bit fascist, shall we say, one Barack Obama there that was in the White House. In my estimation, given his economic policies, we don't need that. We definitely don't need that, which is why I get back to, you know what, I really want to see Pam coming out with stuff. I realize, okay, what is it, end of April. They've only been there since end of January, February, March. It's only been 90 days or so. They've only had a short amount of time, and part of it's just getting there. But they have had the benefit of the last 4 years, and I hope at least that they have enough ducks in a row to at least have the right team in place to enable everybody to just go out and do their job, which means you got to go after the Letitias of the world and the Fannie Willises and the Alvin Braggs, and you've got to make sure that you shore up the system so that it's fair and equitable for everyone. Michelle Obama is really struggling. Have you seen this, guys, with these divorce rumors? I mean, one after another, after another, after another. Jennifer Aniston is alleged to be the former president's big flame. It became such an issue that apparently she had to go on the Jimmy Kimmel show and say, no, it couldn't possibly be true, because I think Us Weekly or In Touch or one of these things did a whole spread, the supermarket tabloid, all about Jennifer Aniston and Barack Obama. So obviously these questions have surfaced because Michelle Obama has been MIA at some rather key events. There was the inauguration, right, of the presidency of the President of the United States. That was kind of a big one to miss. Maybe she doesn't like him for political reasons. Toughen up, you got to do it anyway. But I would say the one that really surprised me was Jimmy Carter's funeral. She just didn't go. And you know what the excuse was? That she was on vacation, a prolonged vacation. You're first lady for 8 years, and you don't have the decency to show up at a former, he's like the Jesus Christ superstar of the Democrat Party, Jimmy Carter, for goodness sakes. You don't have the decency to go to his funeral when he helped lead that whole movement. Remember, not my president, not my president. That was Jimmy Carter. Forgive me. That may have been Maxine Waters. Jimmy Carter was the one who said he's not legit. Jimmy Carter's the one who went on and said that he was put in place by the Russians. And then that whole thing got picked up. Oh, remember that one? Oh, that was good. You didn't have the decency to go to his funeral after he did you guys this huge favor and started a whole big story.
Russia has been proven by our intelligence community to have interfered with one of our human rights, which is the right of free and fair elections. What's your reaction? How should we deal with Russia?
Well, the president himself should condemn it, admit that it happened, which I think 16 of the intelligence agencies have already agreed to say. And there's no doubt that the Russians did interfere in the election. And I think the interference, although not yet quantified, if fully investigated, would show that Trump didn't actually win the election in 2016. He lost the election, and he was put into office because the Russians interfered.
Oops. Sorry, I cut out too early. We do actually have to hear the very end of that soundbite because
Russia.
it's rather important. I'll fast forward to
Trump
it.
didn't actually win the election in 2016. He lost the election, and he was put into office because the Russians interfered on his behalf.
So do you believe President Trump is an illegitimate president?
Based on what I just said, which I can't retract, I'll tell you.
Okay, so that became the headline. Remember, everywhere. It was blasted everywhere. Jimmy Carter says that Donald Trump is an illegitimate president who was put there by the Russians. So he did you guys kind of a big favor, don't you think, on that one? Lying through his teeth? And you can't even go to his funeral. And you don't think that we're not going to think that is because you were divorcing your husband? I mean, my first concern was, wow, she's sick. I'm a pretty empathetic person. Politics aside, I mean, human beings are human beings, and I actually was quite worried for her. I thought, well, there's no reason she wouldn't actually go to Jimmy Carter's funeral unless she's sick or unless she's getting a divorce from her husband. And by the way, even if you're getting a divorce from your husband, you were part of this movement for your entire adult life. You still needed to be there, Michelle. I mean, not a very well-raised woman, if you ask me. No sense of responsibility, no sense of duty. She's in it for herself, as she made very clear on her podcast this week. We talked a little bit about it yesterday. Today, I'm taking it forward because this confirms to me, you know what? This is trouble in paradise. This is trouble in the Barack Michelle Obama household. She has found herself. And so she no longer wants to be associated with him or anything political. Or, she's off doing a podcast. Woohoo! Doesn't get any viewers, but she's got her little moment in the sun. It's all about her. Is this some kind of midlife crisis? I think so. When you hear this soundbite, I have a feeling you will agree. Somehow she's the victim in all this. Yeah, right.
Keep pushing and keep striving. And so practicing no in a very different way intentionally. But then this is what makes it hard because, my decision to skip the inauguration, what people don't realize, or my decision to make choices at the beginning of this year that suited me were met with such ridicule and criticism. Like people couldn't believe that I was saying no for any other reason, that they had to assume that my marriage was falling apart,
Yeah, because a normal person who had been first lady for 8 years would go to the inauguration. It's not even getting into the Carter stuff. Yeah, we all assume your marriage is falling apart. And you know what? It probably should, because you sound like one selfish, you know what I was going to say. And it rhymes with which.
It's like, while I'm here really trying to own my life and intentionally practice making the choice that was right for me, and it took everything in my power to not do the thing that was right or that was perceived as right, but do the thing that was right.
Wow, they love to twist things, right? Perceived as right, the thing that was right or perceived as right, because maybe it really wasn't right. It's like, maybe you're not really a boy or you're really a girl. Maybe truth is just made up fiction.
For me, that was a hard thing for me to do. I had to basically trick myself out of it. And it started with not having anything to wear. I mean, I had affirmatively, because I'm always prepared for any funeral, anything. I walk around with the right dress. I travel with clothes just in case something pops off. So I was like, if I'm not going to do this thing, I got to tell my team, I don't even want to have a dress ready. Right? Because it's so easy to just say, let me do the right thing.
But then you become a shock absorber.
Yeah.
And that's what women are, shock absorbers. And that's exhausting. And it's not healthy.
Yeah.
It is not healthy. You've had to be shock absorbers for your husband, for your children, for your mom, for your family, your loved ones, because of where you were sitting in the public eye. That's not fair to you. When do you ever get to live for you? I applaud you. I'm happy that you are taking care of yourself in the way that you need to.
Is that like the precursor to divorce? She's going to take care of herself as she needs to because she's been living for this man her whole life. She's been living for the country her whole life. She needs to move on and now do what's right for Michelle. No sense of responsibility, no sense of duty, no sense of anything. We've known that for a long time about her. I remember when he was running, second time around, they had to put her in the shadows. You know why? Nobody liked her. Nobody could stand her. She always said the wrong thing, and she looked awful, and she looked pained to be there whenever she was anywhere. So the word was, don't let Michelle do interviews. Don't let Michelle appear on stage with him. Keep Michelle in the background. Guess what? Michelle is not an asset. Now she's like, I'm my own woman. I'm going to go out there and do podcasts. I'm going to say, oh, black women, we are so oppressed. We have to do the right thing all the time. Show up at an inauguration. Show up at a former president's funeral. Guess what? I'm coming out on my own, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm not going to do the right thing any of the time. I'm just going to do whatever the hell I want because I'm Michelle Obama and I can. Lovely woman, you know. I hope for his sake the Jennifer Aniston rumors are true. I really do. Nothing to wear. Give me a break. She kind of rigged it that way. We get some more breaking news I want to get to right now. The president, he came out earlier today, ladies and gentlemen. He kind of made it clear what he felt Vladimir Putin should be doing, and that is getting a deal here with Ukraine. Let me read to you from one of the truths that he sent out earlier today, and this basically said, you know, stop it, stop it, stop it, stop it. It reminded me of a old Saturday night skit with Bob Newhart. Stop it. It's a skit where the woman goes in and says she has all these mental health challenges, and he charges her a bit of money, and then his advice is stop it. Stop it. And this is kind of what Donald Trump is effectively doing. Some real word advice to, you know, you got to stop this, buddy. This is not going well. Okay, so here we have it. This is Donald Trump saying, I am not happy with the Russian strikes on Kyiv. It's very sad what happened there overnight. Not necessary and very bad timing. Vladimir, stop. 5,000 soldiers a week are dying. Let's get the peace deal done. Now, you know he wrote that because he forgot the apostrophe with let's get the peace. He writes a lot of this, you know, himself. He really does. And that's a big difference between, say, him and one Joe Biden, who I don't think did anything himself. He's trying to push for this, and it's the right thing to do right now because people are dying and we need to get something done. I realize it's challenging, but he's committed to finding peace one way or another. I want to go to him. He just spoke moments ago there in the Oval Office, and he's talking about the importance of ending this and ending this fast because lives are on the line. And I'll tell you, I've spoken to him about in the past about military operations, and he never loses sight of the fact that no matter who the people are, they are individuals, every single one of them, and you don't want to be losing lives.
And we've had talks on the war with Ukraine and Russia and trade. We're doing very well, I think, on both. We've had some pretty good movement in every respect. The war is very important that it ends with, I used to say, 2,500 people a week dying, young people, mostly soldiers from Russia and Ukraine. And we want to end that war. We want to end it quickly. And I think we've made a lot of progress. And we'll see what happens. This next few days is going to be very important. Meetings are taking place right now.
So it's tough, though, right? I mean, it's tough when you consider who your dare I say, you know, your opponent is in all of this. It's one Vladimir Putin, and nobody said this was going to be easy. Nobody said this was going to be easy. I don't think he expects for it to be easy, but it is clear that he wants all of this to stop. There's a lot, I think, of factors going into this right now, and it's enormously challenging. We shouldn't be in this position, and I've said this all along. He said this all along. You know what? If you had a smarter team in place, it never would have come to this. But now we're in this, and you know there's a lot of challenges ahead. So he wants to put some pressure on. He is putting some pressure on. And the goal here is to end this as fast as we can. I want to go to some of his questions that he was taking now are thanks to Fox, my former employer, for providing these sound bites. Let's go over to the White House pool camera here where he spoke moments ago.
Mr. President, this morning in a Truth Social post, you used the words Vladimir, stop. That seemed like a slightly different message, a personal message. What is your level of frustration with President Putin?
I didn't like last night. I wasn't happy with it. And we're in the midst of talking peace, and missiles were fired. And I was not happy with it. That's what I meant, and that's, what it said. I assume that's what you mean.
Sorry.
Yeah.
If the bombs keep falling, will you consider additional sanctions toward Russia, or what will you do if President Putin...
I'd rather answer that question in a week. I want to see if we can have a deal. No reason to answer it now, but I won't be happy. Let me put it that way. Things will happen.
Mr. President, why are you not putting more pressure on Russia? I know a lot of Europeans...
Putting a lot of pressure. You don't know what pressure I'm putting on Russia. They're dealing. You have no idea what pressure I'm putting on Russia. We're putting a lot of pressure.
Can you maybe tell us that?
We're putting a lot of pressure on Russia, and Russia knows that, and some people that are close to it know, or he wouldn't be talking right now. The Prime Minister understands that better than anybody. He wouldn't be talking right now. He's talking, and we're putting a lot of pressure. I think he wants to make a deal. We're going to find out very soon, but it takes two to tango, and you have to have Ukraine want to make a deal too, and they're being hit very hard, and I do believe they want to make a deal.
Okay, so he's making it very clear that they're working nonstop behind the scenes, trying to bring this whole thing together, trying to get both sides to some agreement. He also spoke a little bit earlier than this. I want to go to this soundbite as well, talking with reporters. I mean, you're talking about a transparent White House, for goodness sakes. They are on TV nonstop, and he's speaking with reporters yet again about how they need to get something done.
And on Russia, do you still believe that Putin is serious about peace, given the events overnight in Ukraine? And if that bombing doesn't end, are you considering new sanctions on Russia?
So we are thinking that very strongly that they both want peace, but they have to get to the table. We're waiting a long time. They have to get them to the table, and I think we're going to get peace. We want to save 5,000 young people. I used to say 2,500. I now say 5,000. We have, Mr. Prime Minister, we have about 5,000 young people a week that are dying in that ridiculous war. And, I started out because I didn't like all the money that we were paying, and then I realized how many people were dying. And that's by far the more important element right now. I'm saying we can save thousands of people. And I don't like that it takes long at all, but I think they both want to make peace. I do believe so. There's a lot of hatred there. There's a lot of very bad blood, a lot of distrust. But I think I hope we're going to get there, for the sake of a lot of young people that are dying.
Mr. President, do you have a deadline for when the party...
I have my own deadline. And we want it to be fast. And the Prime Minister is helping us. He wants it to be fast, too. And I think everybody in this, at this time in NATO, they want to see this thing happen. So we have a deadline. And after that, we're going to have a very much different attitude. But I think that has a very good chance of getting done.
Okay, so we'll take him at his word. He's been getting a lot of deals done. I mean, they're moving towards something in China. They're moving towards something with the EU, and of course, all of these trade deals that are incredibly important right now. And that's why you're seeing this upside in the market. But this is obviously the biggie. If you could bring peace to that region, it would be really, really important and a wonderful, wonderful thing to see. I'm feeling pretty good these days. You guys know I take Balance of Nature, right? Balance of Nature. Go there, balanceofnature.com. Go check it out. I take the fruits and veggies every day, so I get all my vitamins, which is really, really important. Hard to do, by the way. Hard to do. Just eating. I try and eat really well. I drink a ton of water, as you sometimes see me on the set doing. And I will say that I actually was in really, really good health this year. I only got one cold, knock on wood. And I think it's because I'm finally, for like the first time in my life, I used to take Flintstone vitamins when I was a really little kid. I'm actually taking my vitamins daily. And Balance in Nature is the reason. We're an independent show here, so we are thankful for our sponsors on this show, Balance in Nature being one of them. if you're interested in also staying healthy and being on top of who you are, I mean, I really think you are better. You are your better self when you're taking all the vitamins, because I mean, my own personal experience, I think more clearly, I'm more productive when I am at my healthiest. So if you're interested in this, as you should be, go check them out at balanceofnature.com. Use code word Trish, my code word. You get 35% off, you get free shipping, and you get a money-back guarantee. They're at balanceofnature.com. But again, we just heard from the president, ladies and gentlemen, and I think he's very serious about wanting to get something done here. And I think that there's a real chance he could. Look, he came back with a mission, right? With an absolute mission. And part of this is from a national security standpoint. Part of it is also from an economic standpoint. And also there is what we're seeing on the social standpoint, the cultural issues that are really so critical to him. And when you look at what's going on at Harvard University, for example, then, this is really, it's personal to him. His own daughter, by the way, is Jewish. His grandchildren are Jewish. And he's looking at this mess and saying, how is this fair? I mean, it's sort of bizarre that the Democrats that you'd think, like, I don't know, Chuck Schumer, who's Jewish himself, you'd think he'd be standing up for the kids. No, he's not. He's anything against Trump. You understand what this has become. Harvard University is taking this opportunity to be against Trump. And it's really weird how they invert it all. And suddenly, now, like, anti-Semitism is free speech. Listen to Schumer.
Well, let me read what President Trump posted on Truth Social just today, writing in part to your point, his opinion. Harvard is an anti-Semitic far-left institution, as are numerous others, with students being accepted from all over the world that want to rip our country apart. Is the Trump administration operating in good faith when it uses the issue of anti-Semitism to go after the nation's elite universities?
They are not. Look, I've gone after anti-Semitism at universities. So have the other signers of our letter. We don't like it. But they're not acting on good faith at all. They're acting in a lawless, reckless, vicious way, and it's not going to succeed. I believe America will rally behind the idea that you don't cut medical research, that you don't hurt. By the way, 90% of the students didn't participate in any demonstrations. What they're doing hurts all of the students, even the Jewish students who might have been hurt by anti-Semitism. It is ridiculous. It is not just ridiculous. It's very, very harmful to the future of this country and to freedom of speech in this country. President Trump's got to learn something. Not everyone's going to agree with him, and he can't illegally use the power of the federal government to say, we'll cut your tax status, we'll stop sending you money illegally because I don't like what you say. It is so un-American. And no president, not a Democratic president, but Ronald Reagan didn't do this, George Bush didn't do this, none of the presidents except Donald Trump. He goes way beyond where any president should go because he doesn't like democracy. He doesn't like to hear anybody oppose what he does. And maybe it's because people are learning that he's not on the side of the American people. He's on the side of a bunch of very wealthy billionaires who wants to cut their taxes, cut Medicaid, put in these tariffs. Some of the reason they say is to have more tax breaks for billionaires. And so he keeps trying to put up these diversionary smoke screens. But the trouble is, they're not just diversionary. They are very damaging to this country and to the concept of this country, where we debate, we have freedom of speech, but you can't use the powers of the government illegally to try to shut someone up.
So, isn't that exactly what you did to him? Isn't that exactly what you tried to do to half the country? Didn't you effectively try and say that, half the country were like 1930s style Nazis if they supported Donald Trump? I remember it. That's what you guys did. I mean, there were kids that weren't going to get into school, right, if they were conservative. It's outrageous how they've twisted this, but that's what they do. And that's why I go back to why it's so important that Pam Bondi and company get going. Okay, Pam, we're waiting on you. We know you're capable. You got to move forward, and we want to see action. It is so good to have you guys here. We're growing and growing and growing. Upwards of 700,000 right now on the Trish Regan Show with no marketing, no extra push, just you and me here every day day in, day out, live on this program. So spread the word, leave a comment, let me know what you think, and I'll be back here right around this time again tomorrow. See you then.